They don't walk into your life like a warning. They arrive like warmth, like a spark in the middle of a cold room, like laughter when you've forgotten how to smile, like a question that opens the universe inside you. That's Sagittarius. They don't ask permission to lift you. They just do. And you never realize how much light they were carrying until they decide to leave you in the dark. In 2026, you may love a Sagittarius. You may lose one. Or maybe you were already left behind quietly, no explanations, no second chances, just that unforgettable silence. And tonight you're going to find out why. Because what looks like wild laughter is often a shield. What feels like infinite kindness is sometimes a line, one you didn't know you crossed until it was too late. They forgive faster than anyone, but don't ever mistake that for forgetfulness, because Sagittarius remembers. Not loudly, not bitterly, but deeply. You thought they were just a free spirit, a jokester, the one who made everything easier. What you didn't know was that they were also your fiercest mirror. The person who could show you who you are just by the way they walk away. That's what makes them both the kindest soul you'll ever meet and the most unforgettable lesson you'll ever learn. And it's not because they're cruel, it's because they are built to move, built to protect something bigger than comfort truth. Freedom, dignity. In this video, we are not just listing traits. We're entering the fire where kindness meets consequence, where loyalty becomes distance, where love becomes truth. This is the full spectrum of Sagittarius in 2026. And these are the 20 reasons why they'll feel like home until you make them feel unsafe. Stay until the end. Because if you've ever loved one or been loved by one, you already know. They don't leave to hurt you. They leave to honor something sacred within themselves. And by the time you realize it, they're already gone. Comment if you've ever felt the warmth of a Sagittarius and the silence that followed. Let's begin. Reason 1. The fire that welcomes you in. There's a reason why you remember how they made you feel, even if years have passed, even if they're long gone. When a Sagittarius enters your life, they don't come gently. They come with questions that make you think deeper, with laughter that opens your chest, with generosity that asks for nothing in return, with stories that don't just entertain, but awaken something in you. They make you believe again, not in magic, but in yourself. And yet, you don't realize the risk they're taking when they let you in. Because behind that radiant energy is someone who has burned again and again for people who only saw the glow, never the cost. You see, for Sagittarius, kindness isn't a performance. It's instinct. It's part of the fire they were born to carry. When they compliment you, it's never flattery. When they show up for you, it's not because they have to. When they make you laugh, it's often to save you from a storm they already see coming. But here's what most people miss. Their warmth isn't infinite. It's not a bottomless cup you can drink from endlessly. It's a gift. And every gift has a source. And when that source is ignored, drained, or taken for granted, the fire dims. Not with drama, not with noise, but with distance. Because Sagittarius gives fully, or not at all. They open their heart wide, not halfway. They make you feel like the most important person in the world until you treat them like they're just an option. And once they feel that shift, something in them closes. Quietly, completely. They won't beg, they won't retaliate. They will simply start giving less until one day they're gone and you didn't even hear the door close. That's the danger wrapped in their kindness. Their love teaches you what it means to be chosen, but also what it feels like to be unchosen, not out of cruelty, but out of self-respect. Because a Sagittarius will light up your world, but they will never let you burn theirs down in the process. Life lesson: be grateful for the light while it's still being offered. Some people give with such purity that you forget they can stop. Don't wait until the silence teaches you what their presence once meant. Comment if this resonates with you. Have you ever felt the slow, quiet fading of a Sagittarius who once gave you everything? Let's keep going. Because the line between kindness and distance is thinner than you think. Reason 2. The line you didn't know you crossed. It never begins with an explosion. It begins with space. A shift so subtle you don't even feel it at first. A slower reply. A laugh that doesn't reach their eyes. A warmth you once took for granted, now just slightly out of reach. That's how a Sagittarius starts to disappear. Not because you said the wrong thing once, but because you kept stepping on a line you didn't even know was there. And that line, it was never drawn with threats. It wasn't carved in stone. It lived quietly in the sacred place where they stored their dignity. See, Sagittarius rarely tells you their limit. They assume you'll feel it. They believe that if someone truly respects them, they won't have to constantly explain their worth. And yet, most people test their freedom without even noticing. By controlling, by questioning too much, by demanding more than was ever promised. At first, Sagittarius gives benefit of the doubt. They observe, they compromise, they even silence themselves temporarily. But the moment you turn their space into a cage, their patience dies. And when that happens, they don't fight. They vanish. Because nothing is more sacred to a Sagittarius than the ability to expand in thought, in heart, in spirit. When that's threatened, they don't negotiate. They escape. You'll call it cold. You'll say they switched up without warning. But the truth is, they waited far longer than they should have. And they finally remembered who they were. Not someone meant to shrink to keep others comfortable, but someone born to move, to seek to breathe freely. Life with a Sagittarius is a gift of wide skies and open hands. But try to trap them in expectations and you'll find yourself holding nothing but memory. You didn't lose them, you cornered them, and they chose themselves instead. Life lesson: respect isn't loud, it's invisible. And when you cross the line with someone who rarely draws them out loud, the goodbye doesn't sound like thunder. It feels like silence. Comment if this reminded you of someone who slowly faded from your life. Was it really sudden? Or were the signs always there? Let's keep going. Because silence isn't always peace. Sometimes it's protection. Reason 3. The silence that speaks louder than anger. People expect fire from Sagittarius. They expect drama-shouting confrontations, but that's not their real power. Their power lives in what they withhold. In the words they don't say, in the battles they don't fight, in the conversations they've already finished in their head long before you even realized something was wrong. See, when a Sagittarius is truly done with you, you won't get a dramatic scene. You'll get clarity in the form of absence. They may have argued with you once, they may have defended you 100 times, but when they stop responding, when the laughter fades and their eyes no longer recognize you, it's already over. You just didn't hear the door close because their silence isn't passive, it's precise. It's how they protect their fire from being wasted. That's what most people don't understand about Sagittarius. When they care, they're loud, vibrant, present. When they've had enough, they don't scream. They walk away with dignity. And that silence, it haunts. Because it's filled with everything they once gave you and now refuse to give again. You'll replay old conversations. You'll wonder why they stopped trying. But the truth is, they tried far longer than you ever realized. They just got tired of explaining why their soul deserved peace. The kindness they gave was not weakness. It was investment. And when they saw no return, they withdrew completely. You might think they've changed, but really, they've just remembered who they are, someone who doesn't need noise to be powerful. Life lesson: the deepest endings don't come with slammed doors. They come with someone who once gave you everything, and now gives you nothing, not out of hate, but out of healed awareness. Comment if you've ever been left with nothing but silence from someone who used to be your light. Ready for what comes next? Because next, we're not just talking about kindness or silence, we're about to touch Sagittarius's truth. And it never comes gently. Reason 4. Their loyalty is a gift, not a debt. You don't earn a Sagittarius's loyalty by asking for it. You earn it by living with integrity even when no one's watching. And when they give it to you, they give it fully, quietly, fiercely, without performance. They'll defend your name in rooms you've never entered. They'll show up when you didn't even ask. They'll cheer you on in silence when the whole world forgets. But here's the part that breaks most people. Sagittarius will never owe you their loyalty. They give it because they choose to, which means they can also choose to take it back the second they see that you've disrespected the sacred bond they built with you, not by cheating, not by shouting, but by something more subtle, your inconsistency. Say one thing, do another. Smile in their face, speak differently behind their back. Pretend to care, but disappear when it matters. They catch all of it. They remember. And when the gap between your words and your actions grows too wide, they don't argue. They let go. Not because they're unforgiving, but because they refuse to serve where truth is absent. They won't announce their departure. They won't fight to stay where their heart is no longer safe. They'll just stop trying, stop investing, and slowly you'll notice their presence shrinkings until all that's left is memory. You won't get closure because the betrayal already was the closure. And if you ever try to return, you'll find that the door is still there, but the key has melted in the heat of their disappointment. Life lesson. True loyalty is never owed. It's offered freely and can be withdrawn silently. Protect the people who show up for you without applause, or one day you'll find they've left without explanation. Comment if you've ever lost someone who was always in your corner until you gave them a reason not to be. Next, we go deeper. Because if you think Sagittarius is sharp with silence, wait until you hear what truth sounds like in their voice. Reason 5. Truth as a blessing and a blade. They warned you, you just didn't listen. Because when a Sagittarius speaks, they speak with fire, not to burn, but to purify. They don't use truth to humiliate, they use it to heal. But if you mistake their silence for weakness or their patience for permission, you'll meet a different side of their honesty. The one that doesn't ask for understanding, the one that doesn't soften the blow. Sagittarius believes truth is sacred, and if they trust you, they'll share it gently. With laughter, with perspective, with care. But if you push them, if you lie, manipulate or insult their intelligence, that same truth becomes sharp. Not because they want to destroy you, but because they will no longer protect you from your own reflection. They'll say what everyone else was afraid to. They'll name what you've tried to bury, and their words, they'll echo long after they've gone. This is not cruelty, it's clarity. Sagittarius doesn't use truth to win. They use it to set boundaries even if it hurts, even if it costs them the relationship. Because to them, pretending is the real betrayal. You don't have to like their honesty, but you will never forget it. Because when Sagittarius finally decides to speak, they don't leave anything unsaid. Life lesson, the truth doesn't always sound like comfort. Sometimes it arrives as a reckoning, not to shame you, but to set you free. Comment if you've ever been cut by the truth and realized later it saved you. Next up, we're entering the most painful part, what happens when Sagittarius is done and walks away for good. Reason 6. What you learn the day they walk away. They warned you, not with words, but with hesitation, with a slower response, with a softer smile, with eyes that stopped lighting up when you walked in. You just didn't want to believe it. Because Sagittarius never leaves suddenly, they leave spiritually first. Their heart detaches long before their body disappears. And when they go, it's not an exit, it's an awakening. For them, for you, for everything you failed to hear when they were still trying to love you through disappointment. The scariest part about being loved by a Sagittarius, they never stop loving you midway. They stop completely. No drama, no show, just absence where warmth used to be. One day, you're the person they protected, believed in, built with, and the next, you feel like a stranger in their presence. And that's when the truth hits you. They didn't just walk away, they released you. Because what Sagittarius understands and what most people don't is that staying too long in a place that doesn't honor your soul is a betrayal of the self. They gave, they stayed, they forgave. But you didn't listen to the silence growing louder each day, so they chose freedom. And when they left, they didn't take revenge. They took their future back and left you with a memory that will echo every time you meet someone who gives you less than what they once gave. Life lesson: some goodbyes aren't punishments, they're protection. When someone walks away with grace instead of vengeance, that's not weakness, that's wisdom in motion. Comment if you've ever had to walk away quietly and still weren't understood. We're not done yet, because if you thought their leaving was powerful, wait until you see what betrayal awakens in them. Reason 7. They're loyal by nature, but ruthless when betrayed. You thought they'd never leave because of how they loved, because of how they stayed through storms others would have run from, because Sagittarius shows up, even when you don't deserve it, especially when you're at your worst. But you made one mistake. You confused their loyalty with permanence. You forgot that behind that laughter, that optimism, that unshakable belief in your goodness was someone keeping track of how many times they had to shrink to keep the peace, how many times they swallowed their truth to avoid wounding yours, how many times they looked away from the red flags just to believe in you a little longer. And then you crossed that one line. Maybe it was a lie. Maybe it was silence when they needed your voice. Maybe it was the moment you chose someone else over their worth. Whatever it was final. Because once a Sagittarius feels betrayal in their bones, something cold replaces everything warm. They won't yell. They won't ask for closure. They won't try to fix what broke. They'll become distant, clear, unreachable. And no matter how much you apologize, explain, beg, you won't be able to reach the version of them that used to believe in you. Because betrayal doesn't make them hateful, it makes them unavailable. Permanently. Life lesson: loyalty given without demand is sacred. But when you betray someone who gave you the rarest part of themselves, don't expect to meet them in the same place again. Comment if you've ever watched someone change forever after betrayal and knew you'd never get them back. The next truth is even deeper. Because Sagittarius doesn't need revenge, sometimes the universe moves faster for them. Reason 8. They love adventure, not drama. There's a difference between passion and chaos. Most people can't tell, but Sagittarius can instantly. They live for movement, for experience, for soul-expanding encounters that make them feel more alive, more awake, more human. Give them an idea that challenges their thinking, a dream that makes their blood race, or a journey with no clear ending, and they'll follow you to the edge of the world. But bring them drama, unnecessary, avoidable, manufactured emotional chaos, and watch them disappear without a sound. Sagittarius does not fear fire, but they refuse to carry yours if you're the one who lit it. At first, they'll try to make it work. They'll laugh through the tension. They'll joke to shift the atmosphere. They'll give you the benefit of the doubt more times than you deserve. But eventually, they'll see it for what it is: your addiction to emotional noise, and their soul's quiet plea for peace. And when that happens, they won't fight, they won't plead. They'll leave not to punish you, but to protect the freedom they know they need to breathe. You'll be confused, you'll think they gave up, but they didn't. They chose their clarity over your chaos. And that choice once made is irreversible. Because for Sagittarius, peace is not a luxury, it's oxygen. Life lesson: the people who bring light into your life aren't afraid of passion, they're allergic to drama. Learn the difference before they leave to protect themselves. Comment if you've ever chosen peace over passion that came with too many storms. And now let's talk about what happens when even their patience has limits. Reason 9. They stay calm until they don't. Sagittarius isn't explosive by nature. They absorb, they observe, they try to understand. They give you space to explain, room to be human. Because they believe in fairness, in reason, in waiting to see the whole picture before reacting. But here's the secret no one sees coming. That calm, that patience, it has a shelf life. And when it expires, it doesn't trickle out, it erupts. Not in random bursts, not in messy tantrums, but in terrifying, unmistakable truth. Because while others argue to be right, Sagittarius speaks only when they're ready to end the conversation completely. They'll say everything. Everything they've held back. Everything they watched you ignore. Everything you thought they didn't notice. And it won't be loud in volume. It will be loud in impact. You'll feel like you've been hit by lightning, not because they meant to hurt you, but because they finally decided to stop protecting your comfort. And just like that, it's over. The conversation, the patience, the connection. You'll stand there stunned, wondering how you didn't see this coming. But they did. They were warning you in silence all along. Life lesson: never mistake composure for compliance. Some of the calmest people carry the loudest storms, and when they finally speak, it's not to argue, it's to end what needed to end. Comment if you've ever exploded, not out of rage, but out of silence finally breaking. Because next we're going deeper into truth and consequences, and Sagittarius always chooses truth no matter what it costs. Reason 10. They'll laugh with you, but never tolerate disrespect. Sagittarius is the first to turn tension into laughter. They'll make you laugh in a hospital waiting room. They'll lighten your heaviest moment with a look, a joke, or a story that seems ridiculous until you realize it just saved you from sinking. They love humor. Not the shallow kind that mocks, but the healing kind that disarms pain. That's why people are drawn to them, because being around a Sagittarius feels like you're finally breathing again. But here's what most people miss. That lightheartedness is not an invitation to cross lines. It's not an open door to mock, belittle, or test their boundaries. You may think they're always fine, always laughing, but Sagittarius is deeply aware of tone of intent, of subtle shifts. They notice when the joke isn't funny anymore, when teasing becomes disrespect, when sarcasm starts carrying the weight of something darker. At first, they'll play along. They won't make it awkward. They'll give you the space to correct yourself. But if you continue, if you confuse their warmth for weakness, they will change. Without warning, without a fight. They'll withdraw their presence. They'll look at you not with anger, but with absence. Because to a Sagittarius, disrespect is the clearest sign that your connection was never as mutual as they hoped. And once they see that the laughter ends, and so does your access to their light. Life lesson: joy is a sacred language. When someone offers it to you, freely honor it, because disrespect doesn't just end the joke, it ends the bond behind it. Comment if you've ever felt the subtle shift from laughter to distance and realized too late what caused it. What comes next is even more subtle. Because Sagittarius always hopes for the best in you until they see what you've been hiding. Reason 11. They see the best in you until you show your worst. Sagittarius doesn't fall in love with your perfection. They fall in love with your potential. They're natural believers in people, in growth, in redemption. They'll see talent in you before you see it in yourself. They'll stand by you when you failed. They'll forgive you when no one else will. Not because they're naive, but because they genuinely want to see you rise. But here's the danger hidden in their faith. They watch you more closely than you think. Not in suspicion, in hope. They give you chances because they want to believe you're trying, that your silence is healing, that your mistakes are temporary. And they'll hold that belief until you give them every reason not to, until the excuses pile up, until the lies are no longer gentle, until the patterns become too clear to ignore. And when that day comes, they don't just stop seeing the good in you, they stop trying to remind you of it. You'll feel the shift in their energy. They'll become quiet, unamused inward. They won't argue, they won't guilt you. They'll simply stop making space for your chaos. Not because they're heartless, but because they've finally seen what you've been hiding behind charm, behind promises, behind your potential. And when Sagittarius decides to stop seeing you through hope, you become invisible to them. Life lesson: belief is a powerful gift, but it's not unconditional. If someone believes in the best in you, don't show them your worst and expect them to stay. Comment if you've ever lost someone who once believed in your light because you let your shadow speak louder. And from here, the distance becomes irreversible, because what Sagittarius withdraws, they rarely offer again. Reason 12. They give you space until you push their limits. Sagittarius isn't here to control you. They don't want to read your every text. They won't ask where you are or demand you explain every move. They're not wired that way. To them, love without freedom isn't love, it's a prison. That's why being with a Sagittarius feels light. You breathe more easily. You feel trusted even in silence, because they give you space, not just physically, emotionally, spiritually. They give you room to unfold, to grow, to make mistakes, and return wiser. But here's the truth no one talks about. That space is a gift, not a loophole. Because just as they grant you freedom, they also pay attention to what you do with it. They notice when you start taking more than you give, when silence turns from self-reflection into avoidance, when autonomy becomes an excuse to disappear emotionally. At first, they won't say anything. They'll watch. They'll wait to see if you come back on your own. But if the pattern continues, if you keep taking advantage of their non-demanding nature, they shift, not with confrontation, with detachment. You'll start to feel it. The fire that used to pull you close will now stop reaching for you. The conversations become shorter. The spark turns into silence. Because Sagittarius may love openly but not endlessly. And once they feel their generosity being abused, they stop offering it. Not as punishment, but as protection. Life lesson: freedom is not the absence of accountability. When someone gives you space with trust, don't use that space to vanish, or they'll learn how to live without you in it. Comment if you've ever mistaken someone's trust for indifference and lost them because of it. Let's keep going. Because Sagittarius will light up every room, but that doesn't mean they owe you that energy forever. Reason 13. Their energy is contagious, but don't drain them. You know the feeling. You walk into a dull room, and suddenly they're there. Sagittarius, smiling, lighting everything up with one unexpected comment, one wild idea, one unstoppable laugh. It feels like sunrise inside your chest. That's the power of their presence. They don't even try, they just are. Electric, expansive, alive. But what no one tells you is how much it costs them. Because while the world feeds on their fire, very few remember to ask who fills Sagittarius back up. They give so much joy, insight, optimism that people start expecting it like oxygen. Make me laugh again. Fix this energy. Tell me it's all going to be okay. And Sagittarius does, until they can't. Because even the brightest flame burns out when no one guards it. At first, they'll try to push through. They'll tell another joke. They'll hide the tired look in their eyes. They'll carry the room a little longer. But when the imbalance becomes too heavy, when they realize they're always the spark, never the fire being protected, they pull away. Not to be cruel, but because survival requires solitude. They disappear not out of anger, but out of depletion. And when that happens, you won't hear a goodbye. You'll just feel the cold where their warmth used to be. Life lesson: never assume the strongest energy in the room doesn't need care. Even the light bringers grow tired. And when they vanish, you'll realize they weren't just fun. They were fuel. Comment if you've ever watched someone burn themselves out trying to hold everyone else together. We're getting closer to the deepest truths. Because Sagittarius doesn't just walk away, they evolve. Reason 14. They'll go out of their way to help you once. Sagittarius won't wait for you to ask. If they sense you're in pain, if they see you struggling, they'll show up. With a ride, with a phone call, with that one sentence that shifts your perspective just enough to breathe again. They're not the type to say, "Let me know if you need anything." They just arrive. And when they help you, it's not calculated. They don't keep score. They do it because their spirit is wired to serve purpose, to lift, to restore, to move things forward. But there's a truth you might not see in that kindness. They're not helpers by obligation. They're helpers by choice. And that choice has limits. Because if you return to the same chaos they helped you out of, if you ask for support but make no effort to grow, if you keep collapsing into their arms with no intention of ever standing up, they'll stop catching you, not out of cruelty, But because they've learned that rescuing the same person twice is no longer compassion, it's self-betrayal. Sagittarius believes in growth, not perfection, but movement. If they give you their energy, they expect to see something in return, not praise, not repayment, but transformation. You don't have to be fixed, you just have to try. But if all they see is your repeat button, they'll hit eject. And you won't even notice they're gone until you fall again and no one's there. Life lesson: help is sacred when freely given, but never assume it will be infinite. Some people will save you once to show you how to save yourself. Comment if you've ever walked away from someone who refused to rise, no matter how many times you offered your hand. And now, we enter the fire that makes Sagittarius both healer and storm. Reason 15. They crave freedom. Try to cage them and they'll rebel. You can't own them. Not their time, not their truth, not their soul. Sagittarius is born with one compass: freedom. It's not a want, it's a code written into every cell. They can be loyal, deeply connected, even committed for life, but only if that connection breathes. They don't do cages. Not the subtle kind hidden in expectations, not the loud kind disguised as love. At first they'll try, they'll explain, they'll adjust, because they care. But when the questions become surveillance, when the love becomes regulation, when curiosity becomes control, something in them dies. And that death looks like rebellion. They may stay in the relationship, in the friendship, in the job, but not in spirit. They become silent, detached, unreachable. They'll create space where there used to be closeness. They'll travel, dream, evolve with or without you. And by the time you realize you were squeezing them too tightly, they'll already be somewhere else. Not physically, but emotionally. Sagittarius doesn't run because they don't love you. They run because you forgot they were never yours to hold, only to walk beside. Life lesson: freedom is not a threat to love. It's proof that the love is real. If you try to cage someone who was born to expand, you won't just lose them, you'll lose the version of you they once wanted to stay for. Comment if you've ever lost someone who begged for air and found it somewhere you weren't. Because from here on, we step into what happens when Sagittarius stops hoping and starts seeing. Reason 16. They're brutally honest. Even if the truth hurts, there's a silence in the room before Sagittarius speaks. Not because they're unsure, but because they're calculating just how much truth the moment can survive. And then they say it, raw, unfiltered, unapologetic. They don't believe in small lies, they believe in clean wounds. To Sagittarius, truth is not a weapon, it's medicine. And yes, sometimes it burns. But if they care about you, they'll give it anyway, not to hurt you, but to wake you up. Ask them what they think and they'll tell you, not the sugar-coated version, not the edited narrative you want to hear. They'll give you their truth because lying feels like spiritual violence to them. But here's the danger. If you provoke them, if you insult their intelligence, question their integrity, or betray their trust, that same truth becomes surgical. They will say exactly what they've observed, exactly what others are too afraid to admit, exactly what you thought they didn't notice. And the worst part? They'll be right, because they've been watching, not judging, remembering. So when they finally speak, there is no room to argue. You'll feel exposed, cut open, and strangely relieved. Because for the first time, someone told you what no one else dared to say. That's Sagittarius. They don't need their truth to be comfortable. They just need it to be real. Life lesson. Truth is not cruelty, it's clarity. The most dangerous people aren't the ones who lie. They're the ones who love you enough to tell you what could break you, just so you can finally rebuild. Comment if you've ever been changed forever by someone who spoke what no one else would. And now we step into sacred territory, Sagittarius, and protection not just of self, but of you. Reason 17. They'll protect you like family until you cross the line. You didn't have to ask, they were just there. When you needed backup, when no one believed you, when your world fell apart quietly and no one noticed, Sagittarius did. They defend the ones they love with the kind of loyalty that doesn't flinch. They'll step into fire for you, speak up for you in your absence, risk their own comfort to make sure you're safe. Because when Sagittarius chooses you, they don't just love you, they stand between you and the world. But that protection comes with one silent rule: honor the bond or lose it. It doesn't take betrayal. Sometimes it only takes disregard. A lie you didn't think would matter, a moment you didn't show up for them because you assumed they didn't need it. They did. They just didn't ask. And now, they remember. When Sagittarius feels you've disrespected the sacred trust they built with you, they don't turn into your enemy. They become someone you no longer have access to. The silence is instant, the protection vanishes, and the worst part, you'll still see them protecting others. Just not you. Not anymore. Because to Sagittarius, loyalty isn't about blood or history, it's about respect. And once that breaks, they don't pick up the pieces. They walk away from the table completely. Life lesson: the people who would fight for you without question are the same ones who will walk away without hesitation when you stop fighting for them. Comment if you've ever felt the exact moment someone withdrew their protection and knew it wasn't coming back. Next, we enter the final layer of their fire, where they don't need revenge, because life moves with them. Reason 18. They don't seek revenge. Karma just moves faster around them. You'll look around one day and wonder, why is everything falling apart? Right after Sagittarius walked away, here's the secret. Most never notice. Sagittarius doesn't chase revenge. They don't waste energy trying to get back at you. They don't plot. They don't destroy. They just step aside and watch the truth unravel. Because Sagittarius understands something most people don't, karma doesn't need help, and the universe doesn't miss. When you wrong them, when you betray, manipulate, or lie, they don't always confront you. They observe. They detach. They walk. And as they move forward, life tends to start exposing the rest. People who took advantage of them begin to get exposed. Those who underestimated them often stumble. And those who ignored their worth find themselves in rooms with no light. It's not magic, it's momentum. Because Sagittarius walks with purpose, with clarity, with a kind of spiritual gravity that pulls truth toward them. So when they leave, things shift. Not because they cursed you, but because their absence revealed everything their presence once protected. Life lesson: you don't need revenge to make things right. You just need to stop standing in the way of karma. And when someone walks away in silence, don't mistake it for surrender. It might be the beginning of your reckoning. Comment if you've ever felt the moment life started catching up to someone who hurt you long after you stopped watching. And now, we peel back one more layer. Not the one people see, but the one Sagittarius hides behind laughter. Reason 19. They'll cheer you up with a joke even when they're falling apart. You'll think they're fine. They're laughing. They're making everyone feel good. They're cracking the right joke at the right time, saying something so absurd you forget your pain for a moment. That's Sagittarius. The mood lifter. The room changer. The one who always knows how to say something that pulls the weight off your shoulders. But here's what no one sees. Sometimes that joke is a shield. Because behind the laughter, they're carrying their own silent ache. Behind the playfulness is someone too used to holding others together to admit they're coming undone themselves. Sagittarius believes in joy deeply, but when they're hurting, they often use humor as armor. They don't want pity. They don't want to be the problem. They want to keep you smiling, even if it costs them another day of hiding what's breaking inside. And that's what makes them dangerous when provoked. Because when someone laughs through their pain for too long, they eventually snap. And it's never pretty. It's not just tears. It's the outpouring of everything they never said, the exhaustion, the resentment, the grief, all of it breaking through the dam they built with 1,000 smiles. That moment, it's not an outburst, it's a reckoning. Life lesson. Pay attention to the strongest one in the room, especially when they're always making others laugh. That humor may not be for you. It might be the only thing keeping them from drowning. Comment if you've ever used laughter to hide the weight of your own pain. We've come this far. Now it's time for the final truth reason 20. Reason 20. They're your best ally or your deepest lesson. There's something unforgettable about them. Not their face, not even their voice. It's the feeling they gave you that you were seen, that you mattered, that someone believed in you completely. Sagittarius doesn't love halfway. When they choose you as a friend, a lover, a partner in purpose, they give you all of them. Their time, their wisdom, their fight, their light. And for a while you think it will always be like that. You begin to rely on it, not just their presence, but their ability to remind you of who you are. And then, one day, it changes. Something in them goes quiet. Their eyes no longer hold the same fire when they look at you. Their laughter is less frequent. Their advice no longer comes unprompted. And then, they're gone. Not with blame, not with anger, but with clarity. Because Sagittarius gave you all of them until you gave them every reason not to. And when they walk away, they don't just disappear. They leave a mirror, a moment you'll revisit over and over. Not because you want them back, but because you want back the version of you that existed when they believed in you. That's what makes Sagittarius the most beautiful soul to love and the hardest to lose. Because when they're on your side, the world makes sense. And when they're gone, so is that part of you they once protected. You don't get them twice. You get one chance, and what you do with it decides whether they become your greatest ally or your most unforgettable lesson. Life lesson: the souls that walk with fire don't stay where they're dimmed. If someone lit up your life and left, don't chase them. Learn why they had to leave. Comment if you've ever loved a Sagittarius and realized long after they left that they weren't punishing you. They were teaching you what love looks like when it refuses to beg for space. Final reflection. The fire that loved you, then let you go. They didn't leave because they stopped caring. They left because they finally started caring about themselves more than they cared about keeping you comfortable. This is the paradox of Sagittarius. They love you with a wild, unfiltered joy. They'll walk with you through chaos, wait for your truth. Believe in your better self longer than anyone else would. But once their internal compass says enough, there is no turning back. Not because they're heartless, but because they know something sacred, that staying where your soul is dishonored is the deepest betrayal of all. And that is the line Sagittarius will never cross, not even for love. So if you've ever been loved by one, if you've ever felt their fire warm your coldest days and then watched it vanish without warning, know this: it wasn't a punishment, it wasn't abandonment, it was a mirror, a moment, a turning point, a chance to ask, what part of myself did they try to awaken before I ignored them into silence? Sagittarius doesn't just enter your life to love you, they enter to elevate you, to challenge you, to remind you of your own fire. And if you lose them, you don't walk away empty-handed. You walk away with the one thing they came to leave behind. A lesson, unforgiving, transformative, eternal. Because some people are not meant to stay, they are meant to change you forever. Life lesson, the ones who love you hardest and leave the quietest are often the ones who came not to stay, but to awaken the version of you you were always afraid to become. Comment if this journey opened a truth you've always felt but never put into words. And if this message spoke to something hidden in you, don't let it fade. There's more waiting in the fire. Subscribe to stay in the circle of truth, light, and transformation. You're not alone, not here, not ever. Sagittarius was only the beginning.